All I'm going to say is, if that doesn't explain how this last, like, couple days has been going, I don't know what is. The stream basically crashed. I don't know why. Couldn't tell you. The whole stream was running fine the whole time. We had no packet loss, no lag. Nothing was happening. It just froze and then just crashed. So I love technology. I've said this a lot today when it comes to just trying to fix stream stuff, but holy cow, dude. The stuff is just driving me nuts today, guys. If you guys want to put your comments back, and by the way, it wasn't even internet passing wind. It was just my computer, or it was either my computer or it was just Streamlabs. Like, the application itself wasn't working. I tend to think it was just Streamlabs because my CPU usage was fine. But yeah, we're back. But yeah, if you guys have any other comments or anything you want to talk about on this topic that I didn't read yet because I was doing on my little tangent, you can put them down there if you'd like. But I'm going to continue. So when we look at all of this, I think it does make sense that Loras was, again, trying to stay hidden or maybe just fake his death at this point, I guess. But then the other question is, like, but why? Wouldn't the information, like, come back at some point that you're alive? Like, you can't keep that a secret for that long. Like, it's gonna, like, Dragonstone, when it falls, which it probably did at this time, or let's say even if it didn't, that information is gonna come out, like, relatively quickly. So this is one of those theories where, to me, there's a lot of questions because I just don't, I can't grasp the concept of either way. Like, either way, there's some suspicious things going on. Like, why is Arain Waters the only person that seems like knows what happens? Did nobody, like, send a bird to King's Landing or anywhere that all of this happened? Why is it only a hand, like, word of mouth thing? Is it maybe that they just didn't have any birds to send? They didn't have a maester there? I don't know. Like, I just don't. There's so many questions I have because nothing really adds up. Like, it doesn't make any sense as to why to hide it. But at the same time, George leaves a lot of gray area for us to speculate onto what actually happened there. Did the Tyrells find something that they want to keep a little, like, hush-hush? Who knows? But that seems also very unlikely because Stannis was there for so long. It would have seemed like he knew, most of the places to find anything, like dragon eggs or anything like that. So, like, how would the Tyrells then eventually just find this stuff? But I don't know. Could Loras be Dany's first ally in Westeros? I could see him being a bridge for Tyrion to learn what's happened. Loras is a interesting character because, and the Tyrells as a whole are very interesting because they're tied right now to the Lannisters as of right now. But at the same time, like, that could be undone pretty quickly. So I think George has kind of left the door wide open with the Tyrells, but I definitely could see Loras being kind of the person that, could, what words am I looking for here? Bridge the gap between the two. George doesn't know what to do with Loras. That's it. I mean, his purpose was to link Renly to the Tyrell support. What importance is Loras to the story now? The main importance for Loras is just going to be, well, I never mind. So Loras's impact on the story is really rough because he's a Kingsguard. Like, I was going to say his importance could be you could marry him off to someone, right? That would be his importance. But at this point, like, that's another thing, is like Loras seems to take his vows very, very seriously. And so he's pledged them to Tommen. So it's another thing where maybe it's like the Tyrells realize where things are going, and it's more like, okay, let's keep Loras out of the way and then let Tommen die so that now he's kind of freed up a little bit more, like, morally, I guess. That could be possible. I agree, Andrew. I think there's a lot of things George leaves very open-ended, and part of that's probably why, you know, Winds of Winter is taking so long. And I just realized my lights went out, so I'm turning my lights back on. Give me a second. Also, shout out to my Snoopy blanket that I had on because I was cold. I think there could be a split party with the Tyrell, some going for Aegon and some for Dany. I definitely see that. I think that's a very big possibility, especially when you look at, like, for instance, someone like Loras, right? Loras, we've seen, is very honor-bound. He's very much driven by, you know, glory and honor and things like that. And so I could definitely see him, if Aegon becomes the king first, supporting Aegon over young Griff, or not young Griff, over Dany, just because of that. I don't think we can trust the information. It only comes from Aurane, who's already scammed. Exactly, right? That's the other thing. Is like, Aurane as a source is not a good source of information. But he's our only source we have to go off of information. So it's like, it leads us to question everything going on. So, I mean, again, I don't have a solid conclusion as to why George left it this way. Besides just he wanted to leave it open-ended. Like, the best thing I can, like, come to terms with is that he's trying to more or less just keep Loras out of the story for a little while, because there's other stuff going on, and that Loras being around wouldn't be good. Like, for instance, if Loras is in King's Landing when Marjorie gets arrested and all these things, it'd be very different. Like, Loras would be someone that would actively be killing some people to get his sister free. So, again, that might be part of it. Right? That might be part of it. That's Tyrell's realizing what's going on. We're like, okay, we got to keep Loras away from the situation because he's going to do something really stupid. Hi, Aegor. How's it going? Again. George said we will see Casterly Rock in Winds of Winter. So what POV character is going to go to Casterly Rock? So that's another tough one, especially in Winds of Winter. Like, the only ones that really make any type of sense is Cersei if she escapes King's Landing. The other one that could maybe make sense is if we see Jaime or Brienne go to Casterly Rock. Now, the reason I would maybe go away from that idea is that I think Jaime will go to King's Landing knowing that, you know, Cersei's in trouble, and we'll have the resolution to that arc. But that's possible. I don't know who else would go there, right? Like, I'm not sure who else would end up going there. And I don't think, like, Jane Westerling's even going to make it to Casterly Rock. Right? I think they're going to be hit on the road. So I don't think that's it either. Cersei does think of Dragonstone as a dagger at Tommen's throat. So maybe the Tyrells want to use it as a potential bargaining chip for an alliance with Dany. Or that's a great point, actually. I really like that idea because Dragonstone's very important, right? Dragonstone as an island is a very defensible castle. It's a very big stronghold. It can control a lot of the kind of seaways, the King's Landing. So again, I think that's a great idea there, that the Tyrells just took it. They just took it blatantly. That's fair. Maz as well. That's fair. That's fair, Andrew. So yeah, again, Casterly Rock, if it does go into your Dream of Spring, I think that makes much more sense. I think it makes much more sense if it's a Dream of Spring. And that's another thing, is like, I also could see Tyrion taking Casterly Rock, but that's the thing, if we're working on, like, you know, late Winds of Winter, early Dream of Spring, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that'd be more of, like, middle of a Dream of Spring if we saw that. But let's move on to kind of our last, like, topic of the stream. But the last topic is going to be the whole idea with Cersei's plot and Feast for Crows, really, on this whole idea of who is the Valonqar, who is the younger, more beautiful queen that's going to take basically everything she wants or loves or whatever. And so let's start with first the younger, more beautiful queen. So let's kind of bring this down again. Did we lose stream? Are we good? Hold on, before I scroll on my tangent, are we good? We good? Good? Yes, no. For me, it's good, but I don't know. Good? Okay, cool. All right. So, thank you guys for letting me know, by the way. Moving on. So, let's talk about, again, the more younger, beautiful queen, whatever. I would think you can limit this down to a couple options. So, the first option is Marjorie. She's the one that's presented in the book. That's the one Cersei believes is the correct one, so it's probably not her. But again, she does kind of check all the boxes, right? She is someone that is described as being very beautiful. She is someone that is in a position to kind of take Cersei's kids away from her, I guess, having sway over them. She could potentially, Tyrells in her mind, be trying to take her down, which I don't know if they're trying to kill her, but they definitely don't want her, like, in power. That's very apparent by what Cersei's been doing. I don't think it's Marjorie. She's just too obvious. Like, she's just too, like, in your face. Like, oh, this is what Cersei believes. When in reality, it's like, Marjorie doesn't give me those vibes. Like, Marjorie gives me the vibes that, like, she's trying to, A, gain a little bit of power for the Tyrells, but also be a good queen. So, it's not her. So, let's move on. This is my personal favorite option because I think it makes the most sense given where the story's going. Arianne, for me, makes the most sense. Because Arianne is a character that is going to be coming to King's Landing, probably with Aegon. She's always described as being very beautiful. Like, our first introduction into Arianne, outside of the Doran and Arya Hoda stuff, the real introduction into her is basically her seducing this dude, Eris Oakheart. He's a dude. He's just a dude, you know? And showing, again, how she's able to use her beauty and to manipulate people. And that kind of reminds you a lot of Cersei when you really think about it. So I think Arianne makes a lot of sense given that I think her children are possibly going to die because of maybe the Sand Snakes, the Dornish as a whole, taking over King's Landing with Aegon. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And throwing her down. Now, we'll talk about Ashley's here in a second, but let's keep going with this. Sansa. Does Sansa fit that role? Sansa's a weird one because it would be very interesting, right? Because when you think about the things that are presented in Feast for Crows, it actually makes you think a lot about Sansa in the earlier books. Why did Cersei treat Sansa a certain way? Because again, Sansa was the person that was originally going to marry Joffrey, right? Sansa was initially Marjorie, what Marjorie is to the story now, where Sansa was going to be the queen. And so that was also presented as an idea. Sansa is someone that's learning to play the Game of Thrones and wants to get revenge on the Lannisters and things like that. And that's very possible. My problem with Sansa is I think she has too much going on in the Vale. And I also think she's going to be more focused on the Riverlands and then kind of the North as a whole. I don't think she's going to really be involved too much in that southern plot. So the next idea that I think is the last, like, real logical one, I can't think of any other ones, would be what Ashley suggested, and that's Brienne. And it would be a really interesting, like, twist because Brienne does have the name of Brienne the Beauty. It's something that's very constant in both Jaime and Brienne's arcs and Feast for Crows specifically. And so this would be interesting because Brienne will be, if she, again, Jaime seems like has some sort of feelings for her. And so Brienne will be taking Jaime from her. Now, the real question would be, what else? Because the biggest problem with that idea is, like, Cersei doesn't really love Jaime. Like, she loves that Jaime is, like, basically her because it's her twin. She has a very egotistical view of Jaime. Like, she uses Jaime quite a lot. Like, one of the biggest things we kind of remember is this scene, right, when in the first book, when Arya is missing. Cersei wanted Jaime to go find her and kill her, more or less, right? And it's Cersei using sex, and we see this, she uses this in Feast for Crows a lot and just throughout the story, to make him do that, make him feel that way. She gets him in a very vulnerable state to do those things. So Cersei doesn't really like or love Jaime. She likes the idea of him and all those things. But I do think Brienne the Beauty or Brienne just being this person would be really interesting as well. George is playing with us. He knows that we think that Tyrion is too obvious, but the twist is that it's Tyrion. He did say he wants to kill her, and yeah, well, here's the thing. Well, okay, so yeah, so Ander got that one right. The thing with Brienne is it's about like her inner beauty and things like that, and also you could spin it this way as well. If Jaime views her as being somewhat attractive because of her personality and stuff like that, like that also could be switched. Beauty is something that's very like the eye of the beholder, right? Like you can think something's beautiful, and I might not think something's beautiful. Like you guys might think this tree is ugly, I might say this tree is beautiful. Like, I don't know. But the thing about Tyrion, I think it's too on the nose, and I also don't see how Tyrion, unless Cersei survives the sack of King's Landing, which I've talked about, I don't really like. Like, if it happens, you know, so be it. I just think it makes more sense to have her die to young Griff. If King's Landing is taken, it makes more sense for her to die. But either way, I think it makes the most amount of sense Jaime killing Cersei. I think it's poetic for their character arcs, and I think it's been hinted at quite a lot. I think it would really do wonders for Cersei's character as well. If you're sitting here and you're going, oh, she's been, you know, hating her brother so much and all of this because of this prophecy, and here the whole time she had it wrong. And it was Jaime the entire time. I think that would be a nice payoff for her to have that realization maybe before she dies. Like, that's a whole nother idea. Like, will Cersei be the POV when she dies? Is it going to be Jaime? Would it be, you know, whoever you think is going to be in the room or whatever? That would be really cool. I like that idea as well. That Tyrion kills Jaime and Cersei and then regrets it, right? He feels that pain and loss of losing family. Even though they treated him not the best. Or Cersei, anyway. That could be possible. It comes in pieces. I don't know if I'd like that, but it could. I agree, actually. I think that makes it really a great idea because the whole time, like, Cersei is looking for something that she doesn't even, like, realize, right? Like, she doesn't look at those. It's the same thing we see with Sansa, right? Like, Sansa in book 1 specifically is more about the materialistic stuff. She's more about the physical stuff. When we see, like, her describing knights, it's how they look, right? It has nothing to do with their character. And that's something that's very apparent with, like, her relationship with Joffrey in book 1 as well. It's like, oh, Joffrey is very handsome and he looks very gallant, but she misreads all of the inner signs. That's something that Sansa kind of gets from Cersei almost, right? Like, that's why she kind of looks up to Cersei so much. I agree, Matthew, but Brienne isn't a queen. She could be the queen of love and beauty. I don't know. That's the best I could give you there. I don't remember the exact text though. I don't know if it says queen in it though. So take that as a grain of salt. I don't remember exactly. But where's Tyrion's revenge? So yeah, Andrew, that's the flip side of it, right? Like, I go back and forth on these because at the same time, if the way I think events would play out that makes sense, I don't know where you get that. Like, where does Tyrion come in? Because the timing wouldn't make sense, right? Like, so if Tyrion's going to have some involvement in that, it's going to be probably, like, middle to end of Dance. Or not Dance, Dream. So I agree. I think it's a great point. Agreed, Violet. Like, that's a great point. Like, the way she views her children, like you mentioned, are an extension of herself. She is someone that doesn't really care about anyone. She's very, like, egotistical. She's very all worried about me and stuff like that. I kind of agree, Ander. On my break at work, glad I could catch a live again. Been too long. We'll love to see you, Joey. Welcome back. Jaime killing Cersei like he did his king is very poetic because we see more and more how close her character is to Aerys. Yeah, the two just have way too many similarities, right? Cersei is kind of getting into wildfire. She's kind of losing her mind. She has another Merryweather's hand. There's a lot of similarities there, you know? I agree. Seeing, you know, foes where there are friends, I think that's another big one. I believe, or I've heard the younger, more beautiful person could be Cersei herself, meaning her inner child who heard the prophecy and whose paranoia has driven Cersei to make horrible decisions that only put her closer to her fate. That's a great idea. I really like that idea as well, Ashley. That's a really good theory. Having Cersei be the bringer of this prophecy. Very similar to, like, Star Wars. When you look at, like, The Chosen One, where Anakin is having these dreams and, you know, he's trying to avoid them, and he's the one that ends up causing them. That's I do like that idea. I do not think Stannis will become King of the North. I have never watched that, Matthew Stewart, but that may be interesting. My boy Tyrion make it out okay. I don't think he's going to come out of this unscathed. Like, I think he will have some sort of emotional turmoil or have some sort of physical injury, but I do think he will live. Agreed, Zeno. That's another great point, Ander. Agreed. That's another funny thing about it, is like throughout the entire like book of Feast for Crows, it's always like, oh, these people got me the wrong dress, or my dress is shrinking, or they didn't make it right, or whatever. And it's like, Cersei, you're just gaining weight. This is what happens when you become an alcoholic. Like, you just keep drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. But I don't know. So did you guys want to talk about anything else on Cersei before we end out the stream? Or I guess not Cersei specifically, but, you know, the whole prophecy. Anything you guys want to add before we end it out? Also, Vikings and Bears for Monday Night Football. Kind of not a great game. Like, I mean, it could be a good game, but it's like, it's the Vikings and the Bears. It's like, eh. Stannis is going to, I mean, you know, you're probably not gonna like this answer, but I think Stannis takes Winterfell, he rules it for a little while, you know, gets the ball rolling a little bit, trying to unite the North, and then he gives his life defending the North. Young Griff will save everyone from the Mad Queen, yes, and that's why his reputation is going to go up. He's going to come in as the hero figure. Yeah, Cersei's such a weird character because Cersei is so kind of like similar to Tyrion, where she doesn't trust anyone, right? She's very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? She is someone that's very paranoid, right? But at the same time, she trusts the worst people ever. Like, she trusts Falsey Stokeworth and her husband, who are not trustworthy whatsoever, right? Like, it's not the people you should be trusting. It's just, and then she doesn't trust other people like Pycelle, when it's like, okay, but Pycelle has been loyal to your family over and over and over again. The only thing that's going to push him away from your family is you being a dick to him. That makes sense. I mean, I could see Sansa doing it. I just don't know. I mean, I think Sansa is a character that's going to be dealing with much more of the Vale plot, right? I think the main purpose for her arc in Winds of Winter for George, in my opinion, is going to be, how does she eventually overcome Littlefinger? The knowledge she's going to gain as a political figure, playing the Game of Thrones, those things, and then eventually getting into our main story, where she, you know, that's probably going to be her going to the Riverlands. You know, trying to retake the Riverlands if they haven't been taken over, you know, back by the Tullys or Blackfish or Stoneheart or whoever. And then getting into our main core. Like, we need all of our characters to come together. We can't have all of our characters spread out in 15 different plots by Dream of Spring. We just don't have time. So George, that's one of the big problems, is he needs to get these characters together. And the way I've always said is, like, just meet everyone in the Riverlands, right? In the neck. That area is the central plot. It's the central area. Everybody can get there. Arya most likely is going to be in this area. Sansa coming down from the Vale probably can be in this area. Then a lot of our Northern Coalition can probably be coming down from the north. You're going to have Dany coming in at Dragonstone. You're going to have all these characters, like, somewhat in the same area, so it's a little bit more condensed. So you think she's smarter than everyone, so she thinks she'd see betrayal. You would think, right? You would think. I think it's going to be Jon, just based on probably everything. I mean, I think Jon is someone that's going to be named Robb's heir. I think because of his parentage. I think because of how Rickon is kind of a wild child who just can't rule. Sansa doesn't really make any sense for me at this point of the story, given that she's the least northern. She's a woman. Like, there's just a lot of things going against Sansa ruling the North. Now, by the end of the story, is that possible? Yes, but I'm talking about, like, Winds of Winter. Like, right, more close to the story, it's going to be Jon. Yeah, Tommen's going to die soon. I think Stannis, a lot of Stannis is going to be, okay, getting everybody to rally to him, right? Like, it's going to be a lot of, like, okay, we take out the Boltons. It's going to be, okay, let's rally everyone together. We have a lot of different, like, who's going to rule the North. There's going to be a lot of politicking going on for Stannis. And then the others are going to come through the wall. So then it's like, okay, we don't have time for this. Somebody's going to have to hold them back, or, you know, have them retreat. Stannis dies then. I think that makes sense. Like, that's my thing. Like, Sansa can rule at some point, but right now it doesn't make any sense for her to do so. Right? There's too many people above Sansa in the line, right? If it's not going to be Bran and Rickon because they're, full-blood Starks, it's probably going to be Jon. Like, Sansa could, if, say, Rickon dies at some point in the story, or Rickon is just so wild of a child he can't rule ever. Bran, let's say, he comes back, and even as the story progresses, he's not fit to rule and he doesn't want it. Let's say Jon, by the end of the story, maybe he's dead, or, he's severely injured. He doesn't want this ruling of the North. He gives it up. Okay, well, then at that point, all your candidates are gone. Sansa becomes ruling because she's earned it. So by the end of the story, Sansa can prove how good she is at leadership, of leading people, making good political decisions and all that. That's where she's going to earn the respect to become someone like a Queen of the North type situation. She can't do it now. She's not proven to anyone that she should be ruling, right? Again, if you're a North person, you're sitting here going, wait, isn't this the girl that was married to Tyrion, who was also betrothed to Joffrey? Where's she been through all of this, right? She hasn't been coming back to the North to try and help, or she just kind of waltzes back into the story. So again, it doesn't make any sense for her to then be in a position of power. Sansa could get Robin on her side. I agree, Zeno. I agree. Myrcella, I think, will die. I don't know if it'll be poison, though. So I think the point is going to be there is you bring back Rickon because he's a claimant of the North is very important. Also, it's to make the connection with the Stannis camp and Manderley camp, so the Manderley camp can go to Stannis' side during the beginning of Winds of Winter. And also the other point of this, again, is to clean up a plot hole, right? It's a plot hole if Rickon just, nobody talks about him ever again. Like, he just magically disappeared from the story. That's a plot hole. Now, could that be resolved fairly quickly? Yes. Like, we could literally, George could just skip out on even showing us Skagos, give us 1 or 2 chapters, and, But that is going to be the end of the stream, guys. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Sorry for the stream messing up the first time. And I will see you guys all in, the videos coming this week. Won't be any videos out until Thursday, I believe. When's the 1st? Friday. Won't be any videos up till Friday. So hopefully, you guys were enjoyed by the stream or whatever.